Life Rhythms with Ryan Skyy. Observing the world around me, looking inward, trying to make sense of it all. Hey guys, welcome to Life Rhythms Radio Show. I am your host, DJ producer Ryan Skyy. The Life Rhythms Radio Show is a radio show that revolves around my personal growth journey. You see, as a songwriter and music producer, I spend most of my time observing the world around me, looking inward and making sense of it all, or at least trying to make sense of it all. I've been doing it in song form, and now I'm doing it with my radio show. Every episode of Life Rhythms features a different topic of personal growth. The topic of today's episode is called Surviving to Thriving, the Opportunity in Crisis. And I'm so excited because I also have my first guest on the show, who, by the way, was the writer of the song that you just listened to when I opened this segment. The song that you listened to is called Happiness. The artist is Alexis Jordan, and the songwriter, who is my guest today, is the lovely Autumn Rowe. Autumn Rowe has written for Dua Lipa. She's written for Ava Max, Avicii. She is a DJ and producer and a vocal coach and one of my best friends. And the reason why I'm having her on the show is because we are going to talk about how there are these opportunities that come in your life, these moments where you have the chance to shift. Usually it is like an intervention that's happening. And I believe that a lot of people are experiencing that right now with the coronavirus. They are, whether you lost a job or you're just home and you're, for the first time in your life, you're sitting with yourself and you're thinking about, maybe when things go back to quote unquote normal, I want to make a change. Maybe I'm not happy. Maybe there's something else missing, or there's something else within me that I know I'm not reaching my full potential. And I want to use this opportunity to get to that place. That's what we're going to talk about. I wrote a quote on today's topic, and the quote says this: "There are times in your life that lend themselves to change, that make the possibility for change quicker and deeper. In these moments, you come to a division in your path and you sense that the potential for change is heightened. It's like an intervention is happening in your life, whether you planned it or not. Unfortunately, most of these interventions that we experience from the universe are catastrophic because most of us would rather sleepwalk until something happens to wake us up. But even so, we experience something that rocks us back into our inner self, and suddenly we are freed. Suddenly, we come to this beautiful place where we find the courage to move forward because staying the same is no longer an option." Ladies and gentlemen, that is what we are going to be talking about today. And I specifically chose Autumn for the show because she has shown time and time again. Wait till you hear about her extraordinary life, the challenges that she has overcome to get to where she's at. It is so inspiring. And I wanted to have her on the show because what I found is it all comes down to her mindset, the way that she looks at life and approaches life, and it all comes down to her thoughts and her mind. And I want to share that with you all who are listening right now, because I believe it is very timely and useful in the moment that we are at. That's what we're going to talk about when we get right back after this short break. Welcome back to Life Rhythms Radio Show. I'm your host, DJ producer Ryan Skyy. I have my co-host and manager with me remotely, Scott Waldman.
Yo!
And and we are joined today by one of my best friends, very special guest, Autumn Rowe.
Hi. Hello. Thank you for having me.
Guy, I'm so excited to have Autumn on the show. She's not only one of my best friends, but she's an extraordinary person living an extraordinary life. And let me put this into perspective. Okay. First of all, the topic of the show is From Surviving to Thriving, the Opportunity in Crisis. And I want to talk about how there are these moments that happen in our lives where we are given an opportunity to make a change. And a lot of people, I think, might be experiencing that with the crisis, with the pandemic that we're going through right now. And when we get into Autumn's life, some of the things that she's been through, the reason why I wanted to have her on the show is because she has this Autumn. If I had to sum Autumn up, I would say you are like a strong, pioneering Shonda Rhimes mixed with a beautifully open, vulnerable, and lovable Julia Roberts.
Oh my gosh. Gassed for the whole year. Thank you.
That's quite a compliment. That's like a very successful showrunner with maybe the most successful actress of all time in terms of likability. So like you're really setting her up for a fall.
Seriously.
No,
I'm like,
no. But this is the thing. But guys, listen, like when we get into Autumn's life, I just to kind of sum it up, like to have, and we'll get into this, you started out your life homeless, right? Mm-hmm. Homeless as a kid in crack houses, not any fault of your own. Mm-hmm. To go from that to living in the projects in the Bronx, to then getting out of all of that and becoming a songwriter for Dua Lipa and Ava Max and Avicii and being good friends with Leona Lewis and having an inner circle of people who that they have had their pulse on culture over the past 10, 20 years, whether they were producing or writing or they were the artist and putting out music and projects that have impacted our culture. And these people are your friends and your colleagues. And it's amazing to me that you went from that, you were able to make that journey. And there were many moments in your life, I'm sure, where you had crisis like what people are experiencing now. And something that you and I have talked about before is that let's talk about the song. The song that I chose for this episode was Happiness. This was your breakthrough hit.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And Happiness, you wrote this. Tell us a little bit about where you were at when you wrote Happiness.
Okay. I wrote Happiness, I think in 2009. I was an assistant manager at a shoe store and I was working full time, which is, 40 hours a week. I was also in a wedding band on the weekends and I was in my own band performing. So I was working maybe about 80 hours a week or so.
Was this in New York or was this in LA?
This was in New York.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. On top of that, I was trying to build a catalog to get a publishing deal. So I was, so let's say I would get out of work at 6:30, 9 to 6:30. I would then go to a studio after, which took me 2 hours each way to get to, like back there and back, to record demos because I needed to build a catalog to possibly write something to change my life. And I did that for a year. So either I worked 12 to 8 or 9 to 6:30, would go to the studio after till about 3 a.m.
Okay.
Come home, do it all over again, and then perform on the weekends.
Did you sleep?
I didn't sleep. I got really sick. I got down to like a very unhealthy weight just because I couldn't even eat enough to stay healthy. And in the shoe store, anytime anyone asked for a shoe, I would have to go downstairs to get it and upstairs. So I was like running 200 flights a day or something.
Right.
And I only had 30 minutes a day to eat. So I would eat a lot of Subway sandwiches because that was next door. Yeah, I looked so unhealthy. My boss literally took me to the side and was like, "Are you okay? You don't look well." I just was like, I'm just working so hard right now because I'm just at the point in my life where it's like do or die for me. And I worked that job for a year and I saved up a week of paid vacation.
Okay.
And I got a hotel room really close to the studio I was working out of, which was in New Jersey. And I said, I need to write something this week so I can quit this job. And on the third day, I got a track from a DJ I never heard of called Deadmau5. Yeah. And it was a track that was released a couple years prior. It was on the internet called Brazil. And at the time, like Flo Rida and Kylie Minogue and a bunch of people tried to write to this track, but no one quite nailed it. So I said, you know what? I'll just try it. So I wrote an R&B song over it, which at the time was kind of like, this was before like the EDM explosion came to the US. So a lot of the dance records were kind of just like a vibe or like there weren't that many like songs, you know, over dance records at the time. Not so. I wrote this song called Happiness, and it was like just kind of a lot about like the turning point I was at in my life, in my relationship. And it was like a really personal record. The chorus goes, through strength, I found love. In time, I found myself and happiness with you. And I didn't think the song was any good, to be honest. So long story short, I won't get into like how the industry works, but like about a year later, the song came out, and it was the song that allowed me to quit my job. And I have not had a job since, like not a shoe job, only music jobs. And yeah, it debuted at number 3 in the UK. It became the song of the FIFA World Cup. I literally went from selling shoes to traveling the world really quickly when it was released. And it was a great
within
door
like a
opener
year,
for me.
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was a great door opener. And all I needed was
another artist, correct?
Yes, an artist named Alexis Jordan sang it. And it was the first release from a JV from my publishers, these producers called Stargate and Rock Nation. They had a joint label at the time called Star Rock, and it was the first release for the label. So that ended up leading to a publishing deal with Stargate and EMI for me. And you know, I'd never been to Europe or anything like that, and all of a sudden I was there all the time. And it was incredible. Like, I'm super grateful for that song, honestly, because it literally changed my life, and it has a lot of meaning. And I hope it makes people feel good.
And it was a turning point in your life. It came out of this moment.
For sure. It was a big turning point in my life. Right before I wrote the song, I read A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, and
love him.
love, right?
So much, yes.
So much. And that book for me was like, and was and is really powerful. And it's a book I need to constantly reread and re-highlight, just because it like shifted my thinking and my awareness, and, you know, helped me be so much more present, you know, not thinking about, oh, I hate where I'm at, or I want to, it just like kept me like, okay, this is now. And that whole shift for me was like really, really powerful and hard at the same time. It took a minute for me to adjust to it, and because it was like such a weird experience. It was like, okay, like let's just say like I thought something was blue before, but now after reading that book, I could see it was actually red. And like just my perception of a lot of things changed, because now I was just in a different mind state of being way more present.
And can you explain what you mean by the colors there? Because I'm in the minority in this group. I've never read this book.
I mean, it's just a weird example, but just kind of like when you're not present and then you become present, your perception of life becomes incredibly shifted. So things that you thought or perceived one way, all of a sudden now you see them completely different. And for me, that actually put me, I was a bit like down for a couple weeks after that, because I just felt so confused. Imagine, it's like all of a sudden everything I thought I knew, I realized wasn't what it was. If that makes any sense.
Like a paradigm shift, and you had to readjust.
Exactly. So that whole shift for me just was really weird. It took a couple weeks. And then once I shifted, I was just like a new person. And that's when I really went for it. And every door I wanted started opening, honestly. And I, you know, stopped selling shoes and just kept writing songs. So
yeah,
I've written a lot of songs since that song, but that song is definitely the one that changed my life for sure.
When I was describing you as like a Shonda Rhimes and a Julia Roberts combined, the reason why I say that is because what I've noticed through our friendship, as I spend more time with you and talk to you and watch you navigate your life, is that you are so unique in that you have this ability to be you're so strong, fiercely strong, but at the same time open and vulnerable.
Thank you.
And that's a very rare thing. And I believe, one, that contributes to the success of your songs because it comes through in your writing. And also, I believe that has had to have helped you navigate through this crazy journey you've been on. And I wanted to bring you on the show because I imagine there's people that are listening that are maybe experiencing a crisis in their life. Maybe this pandemic has initiated a series of events there's changes happening to them and they're not sure how to navigate. And maybe this is an opportunity for them to kind of pivot their lives. And by having somebody like you on the show, we can talk about like the kind of mindset it takes. Cause like, for instance, you talk about that place you were in right before you wrote Happiness. For me, that moment for me, and we've talked about this before, I was also in New York. This was 2016 and I was not doing music. I wanted to do music my whole life. I wasn't doing music. I was working in marketing, doing like running Twitter accounts for insurance companies, and doing social media for dentists' offices, and I was really unhappy. And my boyfriend passed away, committed suicide, and it just rocked me to my core. It at that moment, I was raised Catholic, but in that moment in my life, I didn't believe in God. I wasn't spiritual. I didn't believe in anything. But that experience, about a month or so later, I also discovered Eckhart Tolle. You mentioned the New Earth. I discovered the power of now. And that moment served as like a doorway. Eckhart talks about these moments are like little doorways where there's the possibility for growth or enlightenment or awakening, or for you to step into a new version of yourself. Mm-hmm. And I feel like where you and I relate, when you wrote Happiness, you were kind of at that pivotal point in your life where you were experiencing this maybe unhappiness, or you just felt like you said you needed to write a song. Like you had reached your breaking point. You were like, I need to write this song. And you did it, and it changed your life, right?
Yeah.
And for me, when I experienced that shift with my boyfriend dying, soon after I started learning to DJ. I decided to teach myself how to produce music. I shifted my whole life away from marketing. I became a DJ, started doing music, and within a year, same thing for me. I was traveling, and I was, I was on Billboard and all that. Just things happen quickly. Mm-hmm. It's like, so yeah. I find that fascinating, and I want to talk about these kinds of moments for people that are tuning in right now.
Well, I think the way to be strong and vulnerable at the same time is to be authentic and to be real, because we are all of those things at the same time, every one of us. And just kind of what's helped me navigate through the industry and life is just, I've always been myself, and, unapologetically as well. Sometimes that rubs people the wrong way, I'll admit, but I'm a New Yorker, so take it. But, just being yourself and just being real all the time, is really important for writing, just as a human. So, the industry is completely built off of relationships, and, there's so many ups and downs. Like, I've been writing for a living for 10 years. So, I'm not always going to have a big hit out. And the reason why some people might still email me back or take my call is just because, if they like you, because at the moment they might think they don't need anything from you, or you can't do anything for them, because that's just how the industry is. But if they like you and you've always been real and cool with them, they won't ignore you necessarily.
I have 2 points on that. One, I think being vulnerable is being strong. That's one thing. And
I agree.
Good. We agree on everything. And and thing number 2 is something I was discussing with Emily, who, shout out to Emily Burke for helping setting this up. People are going to want to do business with people that they get along with.
Yep.
So at the end of the day,
yes,
it doesn't hurt you to be nice.
It doesn't hurt you to be nice. Yeah. It's, of course, not everyone's nice. Some people are just so freaking good. They'll work with them anyway. I don't think I'm one of those people. So I need to be nice and be myself. And why not? You know, it doesn't cost anything to be nice, like they say.
I mean, Ryan's Venmoing me a lot of money right now to be nice, but aside from that, I'm trying.
Oh yeah, just showering you.
Yeah, making
with
it
all
rain.
my canceled gigs money that are all on hold from the pandemic.
Yay, pandemic!
Yes. Autumn, you also I noticed that you have this in your openness. You have this ability. You say you're open to things. You say yes, right, as opportunities come.
Yes.
Can we talk? I know people will want to know more about your childhood, your upbringing, just some of the things that you worked through. Can you give us a little?
Like when Jim Carrey came out with Yes Man, I was like, that's me.
Yes.
I've always been like that. I always say yes. I say yes to almost anything, you know. Do you want to go out tonight? Yes. Hey, I'm going here. You want to go? Yes. Should we take a trip? Yes. You know.
What are some serendipitous things that have happened to you because you said yes? Everything.
Where do I begin? So I kind of low key got my break in the industry from a Craigslist ad.
I joined a band that signed a major label record deal to Craigslist. That's the reason I got it. So thank you, Craig. Anyway.
Shout out to Craigslist. I got my dog from Craigslist. I got my New York apartment from Craigslist. Like, I love Craigslist. If you know how to use Craigslist, it's great.
Yep. Too bad you're not a misconnection.
Yeah, there's also some shady stuff, but yeah. So like I responded to a ad for a demo singer, and the people I met 2-3 years later remembered me and introduced me to the people that ended up giving me my publishing deal. Another one, my old chiropractor, she referred me to a job interview for an assistant for a producer. I went. He didn't want to hire me. He just said, "Can you sing?" I said, "I think so." And then ended up giving me tons of jobs as backing singer and writing gigs. This was like in my early 20s. Another one, like on the coldest night I can remember in New York, my mom said, "Do not go out." It was like below 5, below 10. It was horrendous. My eyebrows hurt. It was so cold. And I went out anyway because someone invited me to BB King's that night and I wanted to go to a show. Everyone said, don't go out. I went anyway. In the train station on my way home, I met an incredible producer who was like, "Weren't you just at the BB King show?" I said, "Yeah, I was." And then we had a great friendship for years that led to some really, really great productions we did together. Honestly, like so many things. Also, another thing I need to say is like, I always say yes, even if I don't know how to do it. And a lot of people are afraid to do that because they're like, I don't want to let anyone down, or what if I can't do it? I don't care. If you ask me, Autumn, I don't care what it is. If I want to do it, I'm going to say yes. And I will be stressed out until up to the date, but I will learn how to do whatever I said I'm going to do. And that skill has gotten me so far. Like, I used to vocal coach the X Factor. I never coached on television. I never did anything on that scheme of things. I was only writing for a living for like 2 years. All of a sudden, I'm in a room coaching 200 people at one time. And, I just said yes. And I figured it out on the spot. And I just think that has opened up so many doors for me. And just that attitude of like, I'll figure it out and I'll work really hard and I can do it is great. Go ahead.
I'm thinking about all the systems that you were able to break through. Like in terms of it, we have talked about this before, that it's difficult to break the mold. Like when you're in a system, when you're in the Bronx or you're homeless or you're poor or you find yourselves in these situations. It's hard it's hard to move through that and get to the next phase of your life.
For sure. Let me give a little backstory for people, because I think this is actually the first time I ever even talked about my childhood to this extent. So it just doesn't normally come up. But yeah, so my mom's Jewish woman from Livingston, New Jersey, and my father was a guy from uptown in New York. And my mom grew up, middle, upper class, a bit sheltered, and basically met my father, and he was the opposite. He had a massive drug problem, which she didn't know right away. And she got pregnant, had me, and her family disowned her. As, sometimes in Jewish culture, especially back then, we're not super fan of the interracial thing. So
an interreligion thing, let alone interracial. It's
exactly, religion and interracial.
You're talking to a Waldman, so I get you halfway.
Yeah. For anyone who can't see me, I'm Black and Jewish. So so my mom basically, without the help of her family and with a drug addicted baby daddy, had to raise me on her own. So we ended up being homeless for about 8 years, just living in between hotels and shelters and, relatives' couch when we can, and just all kinds of insane situations. Eventually, we went to court. I removed my father from my life around 5 or 6 years old. My mom put herself back into college, finished her degree, became a school teacher. Slowly, then we moved to the projects. Then we ended up, moving to a regular place.
Yeah.
Long story, but, we ended up doing okay. But yeah, I didn't grow up with anything handed to me. I was, quite disadvantaged, if you just look at it like that. But also, a lot of advantages as well, like growing up in New York, growing up being exposed to music through the project windows. I'd open the window.
Yeah, and, that's true.
I'd hear the level of exposure of culture, which helps me to contribute to culture, because I grew up with only culture. So, I would look out the window and there's a DJ, and these are things that are just normal to me. Like, well, yeah, of course there's a DJ out the window playing for the kids. Like that's what people do,
right.
Seeing rappers everywhere. That's just normal, right? I don't know. To me, that's just normal. Seeing Jay-Z just hanging out at my high school. That's just normal. Seeing Joe.
Wow.
No, we saw Juicy at my high school.
Juicy. Well, he was buying diamonds.
Yeah, that's right. From probably Shlomo's family or something.
Yeah,
exactly. But there's a lot of advantages. It depends how you want to look at it. You know what I mean? So I was homeless and poor and didn't have a lot of things that other people had, but I also had a lot of things that other people didn't have. So I'm grateful for all of it. I'll say that. And, we can't really choose the cards we were dealt, but we can choose how we handle it and what we do with it. And I got to say this as well, being where I'm from is what's pushed me so hard and what's given me the drive to work as hard as I do and did to work 80 hours a week, 90 hours a week. And, because I really needed to do this, being where I'm from, so other girls could see it was possible, and other kids who were also in my situation, because you didn't see that much where I'm from. So I needed to do this, not for myself only, but for everybody. And it was just really, really important, because I didn't have a lot of examples of that, even being mixed. Mariah Carey was the first mixed person I ever saw. I just, now you look on TV and we see all kinds of colors and shapes and everyone. But
Drake,
everybody, Lenny Kravitz, everybody. But growing up, I didn't see those kind of examples. So I just felt it was really important for me to do something that had meaning, and to be really intentional and thoughtful with everything I did.
That's awesome. I love that. What I hear there is mindset. You found yourself in these difficult situations, but you also found yourself in these amazing situations because there's the dichotomy. There's the good and the bad in each moment. And it really comes down to what you focus on. And you seem to be able to find all of the good around you and to use that to build a better life for yourself when you could have focused on the oppression and the negative things that were difficult.
Right.
Let's stop there. I want to get into mindset in segment 2, because I think there's a lot of people listening who that's where they're at right now. They're kind of in this could be a beautiful moment in their life, but it's all going to come down to the way they think about it and how they approach their day to day and the way they're looking at things. And it comes down to mindset. So let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we will resume with Autumn Rowe. Hey guys, welcome back to Life Rhythms Radio Show. I'm your host, Ryan Skyy. I've got Scott Waldman here, my co-host, and the lovely Autumn Rowe, our guest, singer-songwriter, DJ, producer, vocal coach. The list goes on and on. So happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
And the song that we listened to coming into this segment is the song that Autumn wrote, Happiness, sung by Alexis Jordan. And the lyrics, I think, are so poignant to this second segment. I gotta hurry now, quick. Just step on the gas because I don't want to miss this. This opportunity only comes once in my life. There's so much urgency there. And the reason why I want to highlight this lyric is because to me, it speaks about that a moment where you have this opportunity to make a change. And in the first segment, we talked about mindset and how if you are experiencing a crisis, or as one of my favorite TED Talks is by, her name's Caroline McHugh. It's called The Art of Being Yourself. And Caroline talks about these interventions that happen, that the universe kind of like puts these interventions on you. And then in that moment, you have this opportunity where change can happen. But it comes down to your mindset, right? So if I'm a listener, so the people who are listening to the show, and maybe they're listening right now and they're feeling inspired by your story, Autumn. Maybe they're in this moment where they're like, I'm going through something right now. I want to, because here's the thing. Most of us we like to live in safety and security, right? Mm-hmm. But when living in safety and security, I believe it's the end of us, because when we're safe and secure, we don't do anything because we're not at risk. Mm-hmm. We just keep on existing with that job we hate or with that life that's monotonous and empty, right? Because we're feeling safe. And right now, there may be some people listening that maybe they're not feeling safe anymore because they lost their job or there's a change, and they're starting to kind of go inward and think about, who do I want to be? What do I want to do with my life? What do I want to do? This moment will define me in some way. Mm-hmm. What do I want this moment to be? And Autumn, I ask you, what do you say to these people?
Well, one thing that's really helped me navigate in such a volatile industry, or, is I had to completely come to terms and embrace living in constant uncertainty. And once you embrace uncertainty and don't fight it, and you welcome it, you can be like water and very fluid and just kind of go with the flow. And it's a great feeling because good things come and good things go at the same time. And I think this is one of those times to just be really open, and we're all in a state of uncertainty. But the thing is, we always were, and nothing was ever certain. Like there was
an illusion.
It was all an illusion.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are realizing that right now.
For sure. And maybe that is an awakening moment for them, but don't see it as a bad thing. See it as a good thing, because it's always been there. And the fact that it's always been there and they did okay with it, they just weren't aware of it. They're going to do okay again. So let go of all that, control. We never had any control to begin with. And we just have to be as present as we can and do our best. But, try not, we can't freak out right now, because when we freak out, we lose everything that kind of gives us our like survival, which is like intuition and our ability to think and process and make good decisions. All that's gone the second we're freaking out and we're just a nervous wreck. Now.
Too.
What was that, Scott?
I said, what good does that do to just freak out? Like, it's one thing to react and be like, oh crap, I'm in a situation that's not ideal. But I mean, me freaking out's not going to make the spread of COVID stop.
No.
Yeah. And let's talk about these different states of mind, because there's people know it as the fight or flight response, which is the sympathetic nervous system. And when you're in this state of fight or flight, your cortisol levels go up, your anxiety rises, your mind goes into this survival mode. And because it's in survival mode, the mind shuts down anything that it considers non-essential for survival. So your cognitive thinking goes away. Your intuition goes away. The deeper aspects of creative thinking go away because you're in fight or flight. And then the other system is called the parasympathetic nervous system. This is the rest and digest. And I believe, Autumn, from us talking, you've become really good at keeping yourself in that rest and digest system and kind of keeping away from that fight or flight system. Because when you're in the rest and digest mode, you access your deeper creative parts of your mind. Your heart rate slows down. You're able to think more clearly. Your intuition increases. You're more creative on different fronts. So it comes down to mindset. I think it comes down to what you're focusing, what thoughts you focus on will dictate whether you shift into the fight or flight or whether you're into the rest.
Yeah. I mean, unless you're it's about being present. So unless you're at the moment dealing with something that's incredibly scary, like for yourself at that moment, are you in present danger? Which most likely you're not. So if you're not, what is your present state? Most of us are home.
Yeah.
And if you're not home, you better be home. Okay.
Yeah. If you're not most of us, you suck.
Okay.
Yeah. Unless you're an essential worker, you better take your ass home. But if you're not home, if you're home, what is your present danger? Nothing, really. So
it's really just your thoughts. You're worrying.
Your thoughts, right? Which we can control. So let's control them. What world do we want to create in our space that we're in? And, I'm not perfect at all. Like my first week on the isolation was like kind of confusing. What's going on? The second week was definitely hard for me. And then the third week is when I stopped fighting it and I just embraced it. And now it's completely welcome. I might actually be enjoying it too much. So,
I went through the same exact process. The first week I was kind of like, oh, this isn't bad. Second week, I completely freaked out. I was sad, depressed, called my mom crying. There was one night where I went to the liquor store and I bought alcohol from the liquor store for the first time in 7 years. I drank by myself and then the next morning I woke up and I remembered why I hate drinking, why I hate alcohol.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know what? First of all, I'm not going to be hard on myself. I'm going to allow myself this moment of self-pity or worry or fear, whatever I was experiencing. And I can just decide today, okay, I'm just going to move forward. So, and after that second week, by the third week, I adapted and then I started doing my projects and now I'm with you. I'm really enjoying there's like this spaciousness I feel to be creative. I don't have people messaging me to go out on the weekend and go party. And I don't have these people saying, are you going to this? Did you buy tickets to this? Like we're going out tonight. I don't have that distraction.
Yeah.
I feel there's more stillness. And for me, I'm becoming more creative.
Yeah.
Are you feeling that? Is that happening to you too?
I don't know. I don't feel like I'm feeling more creative necessarily, but if I sit down and write, I can write. But I'm not necessarily feeling more creative. Also, this happened as I was on a writing trip in London, like in the middle of all these cool sessions, and I just had to drop them and come here. So it was a bit weird creatively for me, but I am writing. I've written a few songs. It's kind of like like I have like a trigger for what makes me happy, and like music is that trigger. So like if I'm stressed and I put on music and I just zone into it, it's like everything else kind of disappears and I just completely get sucked into the music, and then I'm able to create freely. But sometimes getting to sit down and make myself do that was a little bit of a mission. But once I do it, I'm like completely in the zone.
Yes. That second week when I was really going through it and trying and having a hard time, I forced myself to book sessions with people and schedule appointments, doing things that I knew would like were productive for me, that I knew I needed to do these things. I didn't feel like doing them when I was booking the sessions or making the appointments, but I kind of like put things in my schedule later in the week that I knew once I did those meetings or those sessions, or I did those little projects, that would help me get through to the other side. And it did.
Yeah.
It did. I did a couple sessions and I recorded an episode of my radio show, it just got me out of that. I guess I was in the fight or flight state, and it got me to calm down. But what about people who what about listeners who maybe up until this point, because you mentioned Eckhart Tolle, and when I read Eckhart Tolle's books, I also had a lot of real aha moments, but it confused me in a lot of ways. And I started to realize some things. It's like you realize you're living your life in a certain way. You never knew you were. It's like you realize that you had been living a way that you didn't realize, and that you were missing out on this whole perspective of life. And I'm wondering, so for somebody listening to this episode, maybe they didn't, maybe up until this point, they had a 9-to-5 job and they went out on the weekends. They went to the bars and the clubs, they're just like going out with friends on their phone all the time, on their smartphone, on social media. And they were constantly maybe not realizing it, but distracted. And now maybe for the first time in a long time or ever, they're actually finding themselves kind of being forced into this still state where they're not able to be distracted. And maybe they didn't even realize they were being distracted, but now they're kind of thinking, now there's like this spaciousness, this openness for them. Like, what do you say to those people?
I say enjoy it and, embrace the space. And why, if you're feeling bored, why are you feeling bored? What's boring about being with yourself? And I think that's a curable disease, boredom.
I do too.
Yeah.
And I think silence is essential, and I don't think a lot of us have enough of it.
I just want to say something about boredom. I don't see how it's possible to be bored in 2020 when you can literally get any book you want, listen to any album you want, watch any movie you want. I don't get it.
I agree. Like, I see so many people posting how bored they are, and I'm like, are you in a time machine? Like, what? Like, I don't know.
Anything you want. I don't think it's the outside that's boring. I think these people must be boring because, like, there's so many options. Anyway, I digress.
So many options. I mean, I've been going through like, what do I want to eat this week? I'm like, oh, I'm into Indian, I'm into Chinese, and I just been cooking these things that I, have never really done before.
That's awesome.
But I've really been enjoying it. Honestly, it's been great.
If you want to make me a samosa, I'll pay you. I'll pay you. I want a samosa, a homemade samosa. It's
been great, honestly.
How are we going to deliver it to you? Maybe we'll have to do like the toilet paper that last night.
Oh my God. That was amazing.
I'll find a way to get that samosa to me. I'll find a way to. We'll have a social distance chain. What?
Scott, I wish I had a video of this, but I left yesterday because LA, or it was, I don't know if it's the state of California or the city of LA, how they have this rule coming out on Friday that we have to wear face coverings. Or you get fined. You can't go into grocery stores. You can't go anywhere without a mask. And I don't have anything. I don't have any scarves or masks or anything. So I was out trying to find something. And at the same time, I had toilet paper in my car because Autumn had said she was having trouble. I'm getting real personal now, Autumn. But Autumn was...
Toilet paper's like gold now, man.
Toilet paper was gold.
No toilet paper?
So I texted her last week and I'm like, girl, I found some toilet paper. Do you want me to get you some? She's like, yeah, grab it for me. I'm like, okay. So I had her toilet paper in my car and I'm driving around last night and I'm trying, and we're talking about what we're going to discuss on the show today. And I told her about how I'm trying to find a mask. And so Autumn offered me some things that I can use, right? Some coverings. So I said, okay, I'm going to drive to your place and we're going to do the exchange through your window. Cause we were trying to do, keep our distance, right? So I drive up, I'm under her window. She's,
oh my God,
you were like 15 feet off the ground or something, right? You peek out the window, you have this plastic bag with stuff in it. You drop it down to me. And then I take the toilet paper and you backed up into your apartment because you didn't want to get hit.
Yeah.
And then I proceeded to try to throw it up into her window. And it took me, 4 or 5 times, but I got it into the window and it was a successful exchange.
I'm impressed. Okay. I was impressed. I was like, I didn't know you play basketball.
Well, it took a couple tries, but I got it.
You just wear like a t-shirt as a mask, I think. I think as long as you have covering, right? Or does it have to be like regulatory?
I think just covering.
Okay.
Anything.
Yeah.
Not your elbow.
Arm over the face. Yeah.
That makes sure situation. Well, I mean, speaking of trying something different, you don't often do these radio shows, Ryan. This is your third one. This is my first time being an active co-host to a show, and we're having our first guest, Autumn. So there's so many firsts right now.
Very exciting times.
Yeah, and it's making it enjoyable for me. I feel lucky in the sense that I've had a number of passion projects that I already had started prior to this pandemic that I'm just continuing to work on. And actually I have more time to do it because I have less distractions. And for those who are listening and are wondering themselves, what can they do? They have this time to themselves for the first time. Maybe they're starting to realize that they want to make a shift. And we're talking about mindset. We're talking about like, what are you letting into your mind? And like, what are your intentions? What are the intent? Like what kind of voice? What do you want to say in your life? What's like a first step that people can start to take? Because I think a lot of people are evaluating and they're not sure. They're like, I do want things to be different for me, but I'm not sure where to go from here.
I think you just said something really important. You just said, I feel lucky. And that's something we should really address dealing with all this is gratitude. And like, a lot of people feeling like, stuck right now or scared or all these, let's shift those feelings into what are we grateful for though right now? Every time I talk to you, you're like, I feel so lucky. I feel so, wow, I can't believe this. I can't believe that. Even like the smallest things. And that's such a great perspective to have. Gratitude is like the quickest road to happiness and feeling good about your situation and just kind of giving you a different lens to look at it through, which then once you feel gratitude and you realize how fortunate you are, that helps put you in a position where you can now give to others. And maybe somewhere in that is where they can reevaluate what they want to do, what service can they be of and how they can help other people, which might lead to a ton of things. I saw an artist, and we talked about this yesterday, but like this artist I know on Facebook, she basically posted like how she's going to quit music now because of the pandemic, because she realized her intention behind why she was an artist was mostly narcissistic. And which is a very wise conclusion to come to. I was shocked. I was like,
not like to be able, not, you know what I'm saying? To a very aware kind of conclusion to come to, just to realize that about yourself.
Super aware, super brave too, to just admit that,
And she posted that? That was a
posted on public post on Facebook. Yeah. It was just really brave of her. And I think that might be the most authentic thing she's ever done as an artist. And maybe from that maybe she will come back to being an artist.
That's a really good album or song title. The most authentic thing I did as a musician is stop.
Stop being an artist. Yeah.
That's when I really got real.
That's when it got real. But clearly, you know, this was a big wake up call for her. And I'm curious to see in a year if she comes back to it from a different person, you know, a different point of view. And I'm looking forward to watching her journey with this.
Is this somebody you know?
I met her in Denmark a few years ago at a writing camp. I don't know her very well, but I like to keep up with people on Facebook.
You're what kind of book?
I'm on the Facebook.
Yay!
Yay! Hypothetically, what do you think kind of thought process would go through someone's mind as an artist, and we would never know what her thought process was, but it's amazing to me to think about. I wonder what she went through to come to that conclusion of realizing I don't want to be an artist anymore. A, and B, the reason why I was an artist, the intention was narcissistic.
I have a theory, and I don't even know this person, and I haven't even read the post, but I feel that when people, like, for example, if you're in a rock band and you're used to playing shows and hooking up at the shows and living a certain life, you might write a certain way. And maybe since you're not doing that, you're forced to look inward and realize that what you were writing about was BS or superficial.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
For sure. Totally makes sense. Totally.
And this is literally coming from a hypothetical reading of a Facebook status I haven't read.
It makes sense.
Famous.
It's an interesting talking point.
I think there's singers and I think there's artists.
And there's DJs and there's DJs. And there's Instagram photographers and there's photographers.
Exactly. They're different things. And sometimes they get confused, but they shouldn't be. A lot of people sing because they like to hear their own voice. A lot of people sing because they have something to say. And sometimes both of those things are combined in one person. And that's when you get someone incredible, like Prince, like Stevie Wonder. And we all know who those people are, and they're really, really special. And, I think in the situation where life has paused and we all have to stop and think and, about things that we really didn't want to think about, like life or death. This is a time like, what do you want to say? What do you have to say? What is your message? Like, what's going on? And maybe she realized what she does want to say. It's not reflected in her music. And why is that? Because maybe her music was just about her.
Right.
Not something bigger than her. I
like what you said earlier about starting with giving, figuring out what you can give. And I see a connection between when I talk about the openness and the expansion and the outwardness. Giving to me is that. And then when on the other side, when we talk about the narcissist, it's about me. It's all inward, pulling in, right? It's kind of the opposite of that. So
yeah,
I want to emphasize about people starting with giving and the openness, and that maybe thinking about what was the intentions behind what you were doing with your life up until this moment and trying to figure out, was your intentions open and outward expanding giving, or was it me focus? I want this. I want to be this. I'm trying to do this. Look at me. Right. And that might be a point of where you could start to identify of where you might want to make a shift.
For sure. I think life is a lot harder when you think it all revolves around you. And it doesn't need to be that hard. So, very unfulfilling. I think if people are feeling, like that right now, I would suggest do one thing a day that you can do for someone else, whether that's call an older person and see if they're okay, or help them. Do you know how to order online? Make sure they're not going to the store when they shouldn't go to the store. It could be so small, just do something for someone else. Huh?
Small things add up.
They do add up. And, you know, you could be a hero to someone else. And that's
I would say also hero.
Say that again?
I said, Autumn Rowe, you're my hero.
Hey, super Rowe. And I would just also add to that, not to be hard on yourselves, that these moments will come many times in your life and nobody is perfect. And we're all constantly evaluating and figuring out and trying to find meaning out of life, trying to figure out why we're even here. Like this whole crazy experience of just being alive. None of us have it figured out. And I have this radio show as a way of us to connect. I would love to inspire people to become better humans and just have these conversations, and I hope that maybe it would start someone's mind on a journey that might lead them to another place of happiness, some sort of expansion, right? Mm-hmm. There's no end goal. There's no destination. It's all about the journey of getting there.
Exactly. Also, like, some people have a unrealistic pressure of like, they need to be doing something right now. Like, you have to be creative. You have to make something. You have to learn a language. You don't have to do shit. Okay. Just be okay. It's okay to be home and just relax and just be present and just stare at a wall or whatever. You deserve whatever you want to do. There's no wrong. There's no right. Like, sometimes we have so much, we have to constantly stay busy and constantly be doing things. And sometimes just being still and being okay with yourself is doing something. And that's enough.
That's a great way for us to end this segment. And I love that advice. We have to go, unfortunately, but I love that we're going to end with that advice of, let's remember that we are human beings and not human doings. Mm-hmm. And let's take this opportunity to just allow ourselves to be and to give ourselves permission to just be, to rest and digest, to just reflect and know that we don't need the answers. We don't have to figure it all out right now. You may even get through this pandemic and still not be sure what you want to do, but some creative juices might be starting to flow, and eventually you'll wake up one day, maybe you'll get a little idea of, like you were saying, maybe something that you can give to somebody or one step that you can take. Maybe you want to try one thing, but let's focus on the being aspects during this pandemic. I think that's the why this is happening. It's a great opportunity for us. So thank you, Autumn, so much for coming on my show. Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Thank you.
It's been such a pleasure. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you very much, Autumn. It was very nice e-meeting.
Autumn, before we go, sorry to cut you off, Scott. I was just thinking, I don't want to forget. Because I was just thinking, I want to make sure Autumn has a chance to tell people how they can connect with her online.
Oh, you can follow me on IG at Autumn Rowe, AutumnRowe. Twitter, Autumn Rowe Music. That's about, I have a website. It's afterparty AFTR-PRTY.com.
Awesome. So if you want to get in touch with Autumn, that's how you get in touch with her. I'm Ryan Skyy, RyanSkyy, on all platforms. Scott, your socials?
Hi. My Instagram is Scott Lewis Waldman, but most importantly, you can just check out my incredible roster of great musicians, including Ryan Skyy, on waldmgmt.com. That's WALDMGMT.com. And if you're feeling frisky, check out my show on Adobe, Waldman's Word.
Yay! Thank you, everyone, for checking out Life Rhythms. Have a beautiful day.